Good afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new Coffee Talk presentation, this time organized by the Pre-Award Unit here at the International Center for Numerical Methods in Engineering, CIMNE in Barcelona, Spain. My name is Lidia Trusilewicz. At CIMNE, I work as a research manager, and today I'm pleased to present the talk on the behind the scene of a Horizon 2023 Research Innovation Action Proposal evaluation process, titled for us to answer all the questions of the forum. Regarding the agenda of the talk, it contains 3 stages. First, we will resume an evaluation process in question by its most significant steps, considering its criteria, sub-criteria, scoring rules, and generation of the evaluation summary report outcome. Secondly, we will present the results in the form of a heat map exposing a comparative analysis of unsuccessful evaluation summary reports, something we have from the past 2 years here in CIMNE. And finally, we will provide some observations and conclusions, hoping for lively discussions with the audience about how this competitive basis kind of a call specifically targets collaborations towards a technology readiness level exploration in product, process, service, or solution. We hope you will join us in this institutional self-awareness raising and educational activity. Let's proceed to evaluation process in Horizon Europe program research and innovation actions modalities by step. The evaluation process starts with the evaluator experts assigning to a proposal that is made according to the keywords provided at the time of its generation. Given the extension of the documents submitted during the process, the evaluators tend often to limit their actions to the mandatory criteria. However, even if they do not need to provide specific answers to a particular sections, for example, abstracts, those sections may also impact their impression about the proposal. Everything starts with the individual evaluation reports. Normally, there are 3 in number that are a base for the consensus report afterward. The new element of the past year is to include right to react from the applicant side in some of the topics as a pilot procedure. What is particularly interesting in this part is perhaps that the discussion over the final evaluation summary report continues until a consensus is reached between all the participants. Meantime, the quality check managers are also consulted, assuring a correct realization of all the formal steps before being sent to the applicants. The final consensus report is reviewed by the European Commission officers at the final stage of the evaluation process accordingly. One may say that the criterion, sub-criterion that follow the evaluators reflect the application form itself, with a difference for the mandatory complementary questions to answer. First check is always on staying the proposal inside the scope of the topic and whether it applies civil applications area only. These are the exclusive factors performed from the evaluation stage. Then the process follows the excellence, impact, and implementation criteria order. Of course, these take place before the scoring phase always, as this belongs to the consensus stage afterwards. In this presentation, the numbers of each criteria, sub-criteria are provided for a better understanding of the matter. The excellence criterion basically covers 2 sub-criteria: the objectives, the ambition, and the methodology. The specific questions that answer the evaluators imply whether the proposal's objectives are clear, pertinent, then also measurable and verifiable, as well as realistically achievable. The ambition of the work must clearly stay beyond the state of the art and might be explained in detail. Then the research and innovation maturity perspective and robustness of the artificial intelligence technology. Whenever the proposal includes it in a graded part, the latter must be also reflected in Part A. However, the evaluators are free to assume if it's necessary, despite being marked by the applicant as corresponding to the proposal or not. So this is the new sub-criterion. Following the methodology soundness criterion, the evaluators consider also its interdisciplinarity in the consortium. Then there are questions about the open science practice and research data management, to not confuse one with another. A very important element that generates a lot of confusion, the gender dimension of the research innovation action proposals, is at present considerable solely from the research and innovation context perspective in this section. The addressing the gender dimension aspects of equal opportunities for women and men research of a proposal are considered in Part A upon the Gender Equality Plan related information area. The impact criterion involves two main areas: the pathways the proposal takes within this regard, and the dissemination, exploitation, and communication planning. Normally, it is a problematic criterion to be addressed properly due to including, on the one hand, contribution towards the expected outcomes and also the wider long-term impacts or the potential barriers to these outcomes, together with the mitigation measures proposed, or the scale and significance of these contributions afterwards. And on the other hand, regarding the divulgation of the project's outcomes, the evaluators focus on the quality and appropriateness, what target groups are considered, and what strategy is set for the overall intellectual property rights status. Finally, for the last criterion of the implementation, the evaluators assess either the proposed work plan and the resources, as well as the capacity of the consortium and its participants' specific roles. The essentials here belong to good quality and effectiveness, whether the progress can be appropriately monitored, the resources allocated, or critical risk mitigated. On the other hand, the evaluation process seeks a good match between the consortium and the project's objectives themselves, as well as whether open science, gender aspects of the research and innovation related expertise are included, the access to the critical infrastructure to do the job provided, if all the participants are compatible and complement each other, or there is the industry commercial side involved to assure the consortium operational capacity. A few comments about the scoring stage. In this call, with an exception, the criteria are unweighted. Weighting is applied for the impact criterion of the innovation action modality, respectively. Once the consensus report draft is final, each evaluator proposes a scoring to agree. The wording of the report, especially in the case of negative assessments, also reflects whether a given comment is a weakness or a shortcoming. Then both are scored differently in a way that a weakness almost always makes the proposal impossible to finance. Meantime, a shortcoming represents tiny deficiencies that only impede the success of a proposal if coming in a high number per criterion. When the consensus is reached, an evaluation summary report release is directed to the quality check and the final review by the European Commission dedicated staff. So let's proceed with the comparative analysis of unsuccessful evaluation summary report sampling. We had considered it from three perspectives in function of proposal coordination, in-house external, in function of the modality type, research innovation action or innovation actions, and the case study of the in-house coordinated resubmissions projected into consecutive years. So this is more or less the sampling for this comparative analysis that involved in total of 27 evaluation summary reports belonging to these both of the calls from 2022-23. from which 14 were coordinated by CIMNE. So more or less, they have. The released evaluation summary reports were first considered in function of the proposal coordination, either in-house or external. This is the first heat map result coming from the comparative analysis we made, and how to understand it. The red color, this is something I think should be, okay. The red color stands for these proposals coordinated by CIMNE, contrary to green areas, because these represent the proposals to which CIMNE was invited as a partner. Also, scoring 2 points, I think we can appreciate it from the distance as well. Scoring 2 points stands for a weakness, an evaluation summary report and question received from the evaluation process, as well as scoring 1 point stands for a shortcoming. Finally, scoring 0 points stands for the previous code that didn't consider the artificial intelligence robustness as a mandatory sub-criterion to reflect in the excellence. It resulted that it was a mandatory criterion starting from the 2023.
Excuse me, I'm lost.
Okay, yes. Yeah,
so in red are the ones that we did not coordinate, and
no, the red ones are ours.
Red ones are ours, yes. And green ones are someone else.
Are where the CIMNE was a partner. Yeah, okay.
And a 2 means that a weakness was spotted.
Yes, 2. I mean, we can appreciate the numbers because it's normally it's a very standard Excel sheet. So, in base of the numbers, heat map is created. I'm sure that we all did it.
So dark red is very bad, or darker colors are very bad.
Exactly. Yes. I was with the scoring. Of course, the greater the intensity of the color, the worse the determined scores is. Obviously, the same for the red, for the green areas, of course. But let's say that we are more focused on what is what was our coordination here in France. So in the lines below the comparison table, we appreciated the overall percentage of the points deducted from the mentioned scoring rules. And also maybe a tiny comment, there is the sub-criteria that received the highest number of the points was marked as 100. And every other scoring is related to it. As we can confirm, there are no actually remarkable discrepancies with what failed these proposals regarding the coordination factor. What was also common for sure is that the impact criterion has presented the greatest weakness or deficiencies of all the evaluation summary reports released. Particularly, all the analyzed in-house proposals failed the scale and significance of the contribution to the expected outcomes and impacts, both estimated and quantified. And in the meantime, the external ones, the external proposals, failed more in addressing the contribution towards the expected outcomes and the wider long-term impacts. However, the differences are minimal if contrasted, and everything is based on the 27 proposals in total.
So, sorry, just with my words, this means that we did as good or as bad as others.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some differences. I mean, there are differences between these two sub-criteria from the impact section, sufficiently observed that can be mentioned here. I mean, there was a difference, but it was an impact section that was problematic for all these proposals somehow. somehow we are referring ourselves to what is outside in other institutions, I'm sure of that. So now, well, this is the resume also of the other sub-criterions. Despite the mentioned failed impact criteria, all the proposals resulted in not addressing sufficiently well or at all the excellence criterion in describing how the proposed work goes beyond the state of the art. Also, the proposals lacked addressing how the proposed research and innovation is groundbreaking and whether its maturity goes in line with the selected topic itself. Finally, the proposals presented serious problems in addressing the clearness and soundness of the scientific methodology of the proposal. So we might say that most essential criteria from the perspective of the program remained equally problematic to be properly addressed. Meantime, the less related to the technical topic itself, such as robustment, gender dimension, open science, or research data management, once addressed, didn't present major critics from the evaluator's sides. In other words, what still requires attention in terms of winning assessment is the core of the work. And the non-technical aspects, once generated, were identified and addressed properly in the majority of the cases. So I'm sure that we are all learning all the time. And that is for the major difficulties detected. However, still moderated difficulties, it's the other part of the table, happened with the description of the objectives and the robustment of the artificial intelligence in the excellence. The impact criterion descriptions were moderately affected by three aspects: the barriers to the expected outcomes and impacts of the proposal, the divulgation measures, and the intellectual property rights status strategy of the project as foreseen. Finally, the implementation criterion moderately failed due to not adequately addressing the effectiveness and quality of the work plan, and the resource allocation as remaining in line with the proposed objectives and deliverables. So the released in-house and external evaluation summary reports were then considered in function of the program modality type. The colors division is the same. That is to say, the red color represents the in-house coordinators. Meantime, the proposals are now ordered in function of the modality. So in the upper part, we have innovation actions, and in the below, there's a research innovation action proposals. In the lines below the comparison table, we appreciate the overall percentage of the points, exactly as in the previous case, deducted from the score. Again, the greater the intensity of the color, the worse the criterion score is, and the opposite. If this relatively low sampling permits further observation, we might state internally as the coordinators, we are stronger in the research type of modality, and we have seen it very clearly. Meanwhile, when invited, the external scoring is used to fail less, that is to say, in the high technology readiness levels related initiatives. In other words, we are positive that despite this relatively low sampling of 14 proposals coordinated in both of the modalities, we can notice the following aspects. The innovation actions proposals coordinated in-house generally presented more difficulties compared to the non-coordinated ones, and it occurred in the excellence and impact section. On the contrary, coordinated research innovation actions have been higher scored evaluated in the same comparison. So resuming the current observation for the in-house initiatives, the analyzed proposals of the innovation action modality needed to improve in clearness and soundness of the scientific methodology to mark anything, as well as in scale and significance contribution to the expected proposals outcomes and impacts, which at the same time resulted to be the critical sub-criterion of the research innovation actions modality in this case. We would like to finalize the comparison analysis results with the in-house case study of 2 coordinated resubmissions rejected in 2 consecutive years. Of course, our observations remain unaffected but aware by how competitive and selective the program itself and its modalities and its respective topics are year by year. So we have collected 2 tandems of the in-house proposals from each modality that have been rejected into consecutive polls. And on this occasion, we can observe that the scoring results got worse from one year to another. And this might have been caused by adjusting the idea to a new but only slightly different topic. Other reasons may also be due to the randomness of the evaluation process itself. Anyway, the research innovation actions reproduce the patterns for the criteria such as barriers for the expected outcomes and impacts, scale and significance of these contributions and the resource allocations. In time, the innovation action proposals reproduce the patterns for the criteria such as state-of-the-art scientific methodology and similarity to the previous contribution to the expected outcomes. Their scale and significance as well as complementing the partnerships. The patterns reproduced were of higher number in the innovation action proposals. However, these are improved the scoring in the next year. So we assume these results are at least worth the attention, and as the observation also must consider the sampling scale as well. The conclusions. We would like to conclude with the following statements. As expected already from the webinar title, the essential remains to answer all the questions of the official form. And I would say it is somehow a both sides exercise. However, it always starts with the applicants. Other statement refers to and considering the narrative part B of these proposals. We must bear in mind these initiatives are not exactly research declaration, but represents research proposals to a competitive basis call, which is not the same. One useful tip here, often reminded, is to write the objectives of the proposal in common non-technical language. And this is because the proposals are read by experts from different subject matters, either technical or non-technical ones. And finally, the economic part of these undertakings must be impeccable. And some ultimate remarks regarding the evaluation summary report's contents. An evaluation of the ideas themselves, which also happen, leads to criticism of them. And then an evaluation of the content of the proposal when negative leads to incomplete form, which remains always more rectifiable. And in conclusion, there is always space for improvement. Thank you very much for your kind attention. That was a lot. That was a lot of work, actually, from both of the sides. Do you have any questions or comments?
First of all, I didn't know. So shortcoming. So in the session, how does it work with shortcoming and weaknesses? Because I saw it in the evaluation, but I didn't know it at the precise.
Normally, well, I didn't consider in the study minor shortcoming, because there's a minor shortcoming and a weakness. Because of not putting because of not I didn't want too many details in the comparative analysis to still make it work, so there is only a shortcoming scoring here and the weakness. And minor shortcoming may stands for 0.5 less from what is the maximum for each criterion. So there is, I think it was here. No, I should. So the briefings the evaluators receive are very strict about it. And some of the reports, they even state that it is minor shortcoming. So with the minor shortcoming, the proposals still can get the finance. With the shortcoming, I'm sure that maybe if there is only one shortcoming in one criterion and the other criterions are okay, then the proposal still has a chance to be financed. But weakness basically makes the proposal fail. So there are regarding this subject, there are these categories of scoring.
This is good to know because I
And then the interpretation of scores, of course, I'm sure the excellence and very good, they are still in between minor shortcoming and shortcoming. The minor shortcoming may even not go the 5 points. So, but it will be reflected in the text.
I have another Marie Curie codes. Because, for example, in the Marie Curie, that's a comment more than our problem was always in the last column. So it was always a formal thing in all the ones I saw. So always the impact was fine, the scientific excellence was fine. Not the ones I wrote. That's at least in that kind of goals, it was always a problem that how in the implementation, say.
Yeah,
So at least I just want to tell, even if maybe the data are not telling it, but that was always.
No, but these are only the research innovation action scores and innovation action scores, which means that innovation action starts from the tier 6, more or less. It depends also on the year because they change this. This is from the 22-23. So we are talking about that we are trying to release a product, a process, whatever CIMNE is in terms of innovation action here. And then both of these modalities they are similar, but they are of course not the same. And I was positively surprised that the implementation section didn't show so much bad scoring in general. That it was actually, and when reading the reports, because actually scoring is a very strict task, and so reading the reports, I would say that maybe we are perhaps we all have always the doubts about the implementation part because it is like less academic. It is not the excellent part, and the impact. I think we are also from the academia used to describe this kind of impacts to the environment, to the society. This is also very academic approach. Meantime, the implementation very often in the innovation action proposals, it's more commercial related, and we want to have a product for selling, for promoting, and I'm sure that starting from the academia, the tech transfer is not always the easy thing. It depends on the institution, of course, because, for example, CIMNE has its own tech transfer unit. So I'm sure that the institution is assured regarding these aspects a lot. But this is not the case of all the institutions regarding the public sector. So that was my positive surprise that the implementation is actually well scored in general in this sampling. And then the Marie Curies themselves, it depends on the modality because we have doctoral networks, we have staff exchange, we have of course, postdoctoral fellowships. There was a compounds. It was a rise that was converted in staff exchange. Yes, I think I still know the previous nomenclature. I think the rise is the staff exchange today, and confounds are still. I think there are still the modality of confounds under the Marie Curie actions. So depending on the modality, the evaluation process also is a bit different. And I'm not really sure, but maybe you were referring to doctoral networks, or
I was referring to doctoral networks. I mean, it was just mostly a comment, but I was not sure if it was here, because at least to my experience, the implementation has always been the big problem, and you're telling exactly the contrary. So I'm sure it is true. This means that it is. I mean, my bias is a bad one. That's.
Yeah, but the Marie Curie actions are for training people in general. They are, of course, about the idea as well, but normally we have the network of students, predoctoral, doctorals that are being trained, and it is more of, in my opinion, more focused on the very specific academic tasks as courses, conferences, divulgation, and the implementation part is very related to it, because we have, well, this is also the impact section as far as I remember, but we have this compatibility between what is the institution, the knowledge exchange from both sides, and then the capacity of the institution, what the research group offers, and in the doctoral networks we have consortium, so it is even more complicated than that. And but I'm sure that the rule is the same. I mean, to really answer all the mandatory questions, and if there's a space to add some more information, that would be well, make the proposal more meaningful even. So these are different modalities, different both. I hope I answered the question.
You do. But if no one asks, I have the last one. If you compare how we fare compared to the, say, general public, so how is our success rate overall? Is it in line, let's say, with the average? Is it above the average, below the average? I'm just curious.
Do I still conserve the job?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question. So if we are very much below the average, I'm going to throw myself out of the window.
I would say this, we have this strategic plan in CIMNE, the recent ones. And the main intention of the last months and of the last weeks even, I'm here from the February only. So we have convoted to start. We have convoted the new unit, the pre-award unit. All the efforts that we made there is to first cause CIMNE to coordinate more innovation proposals. Also research innovation proposals. Both of these modalities are of interest actually. At present. So there we have a very low presence. We actually haven't coordinated many of them so far. So we want to strengthen this part. We are being invited to other consortiums, which is also good. But then, well, I saw some differences actually between the effort that was put in the other proposals that the in-house proposals. And I think that we have a great expertise regarding the research innovation actions proposals. because this is the public sector, this is the academia. It was actually, it was very curious, but I saw it in the proposals only. There are like 27 proposals, and I saw it. I mean, like, yeah, this is the academia, and one may tell, no? But regarding the innovation proposals, we must still make a great effort. So,
But is the answer is that our success rate is below the expected one.
I think we are in progress, and also if you are referring your questions to, for example, national level, European level, or international level even, I think the public sector overcomes a great transformation. We are, I think we are presenting it, we are living it at present now, and so they want to see the academia as a receiver of the public finances, maybe equally as the private sector. This is, I think, also important factor. And what else? And they want transform all these academic ideas into innovation approach. And because I'm sure that, as far as I know academia, I used to work to several public universities. I think there are a lot of ideas always in academia, and not always the staff of the institution is aware of it, or how to describe it properly in a proposal and get the finance and get the funds. So this is a matter of the competencies. And also, there is another aspect of it, I think, very interesting as well, that whether we consider these competencies related to these proposals drafting and writing still belonging to the researchers, or, for example, to the people specialized in drafting and writing on the consultative level. These kind of proposals, pieces, or how to say it. Of course, this is of course a question that doesn't have a direct answer, but of course something to reflect, perhaps.
Hello.
Analytical progress, yes.
Hi, good afternoon. I would like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Of course.
Yeah, well, starting from this last thought that you had about the differences in proposals that have been written by researchers or by experts in writing drafts, do you appreciate, or do you see the difference when you are an evaluator between a proposal that has been written by an expert in writing proposals or by a researcher? Can you tell the difference?
I do appreciate this, yes.
Okay.
Maybe because I am a researcher in my origins, and I'm also very strict with the language.
Yes.
So maybe it's something personal from my side, but it is normally even if it's an innovation action, a proposal written by a researcher is more of a research kind. I mean, it is always focused on the idea. There's a certain order. You may tell that it's like an academic order even. And when there is a private company writing, I think it's a bit maybe less ordered.
Okay, so it may be the case that a proposal written by a scientist becomes less accessible to a common reader because it's not using such common language, and therefore it's maybe less understood. Sorry.
Yes, I think that was the main reason when the private sector actually was before the academia in getting all these funds decades ago when it all started. I mean, we must look in the past a bit. And actually, the private sector used to receive a lot of funds, and these are public funds actually. From the Commission for all these different calls we had from the last decades. So I'm sure, and we are living, I think now, the times when the academia is getting to this race. And I think with some purpose and I think with some experience, we are also collaborating a lot with the private sector, and these competencies are being exchanged. Well, this is of course a very general observation, but more or less something like this I'm observing.
Okay. Now, looking at the results of your analysis, in the first table that you showed, it struck me that in section 1.2, the bulge of the weaknesses are concentrated in subsection 1.2.1 versus all the other 1.2 subsections that are generally well valued. So do we have to delve deep into this analysis and concentrate on section 1.2.1, for example, in order to strengthen that that part of our proposals?
I only see that I don't. Do you refer to the first heat map?
Yes.
In the first heat map, I see they were more or less, well, okay, with 4 points.
Can you show it on screen?
Like 20, this one?
Yeah.
So I see 27%.
No, in section 1.2.1, you have a total of 11 weaknesses, which amounts to 73% for our proposals, our coordinated proposals.
Yes. And?
Yeah. Whereas all the other subsections in section 1.2 are pretty well valued. So there are not that many weaknesses.
There was also well, maybe not confusion, but normally these evaluation summary reports are very strict regarding what comments are being made. So the subcriterion 1.2.1 is one of the most significant ones in this in the excellence, and sometimes it resulted that the other were not appearing, but they were not essential for what is the reports. That's why in the observations I put that there is some randomness of these reports. Meantime, they are actually really following a very certain strict order, but it happens as well. So
yes, I understand the randomness factor, and in fact, my next question goes on that part. But to me, going from a maximum of 20% of weakness to a 73% of weakness, it's more than randomness. It's not just randomness that justifies this difference. And in my view, from a researcher point of view, it is that in many cases we tackle a section of the report or of the proposal believing that the section will be evaluated as a whole, and maybe we don't have enough space for cover all the questions of the subsection, and we take advantage of the other subsections to address the questions, because we understand that can be addressed in all those subsections. Is that maybe a mistake we make as researchers and as writers of proposals?
I think that there's a compromise between what is the space availability and what must be or have to be addressed in the proposal. And I wouldn't compromise one sub-criterion by another.
Okay. Then,
That's my suggestion.
yes, thanks. On the randomness and subjective factor, one of the criteria that you mentioned at the beginning for evaluating the proposals is how pertinent is the proposal for the call. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, this pertinent criteria to me sounds like very subjective.
Yeah, but these are.
And I would like to ask you, do the evaluators have other information beyond what is included in the call description to evaluate the proposals? I mean, have they been briefed, or do they have other documents on the background on how the call has been drafted and has been generated in order to evaluate the proposals, which the researchers and the consortia who prepare the proposals don't have access to?
Actually, the documents and the briefing that received evaluators, it's the briefing that only evaluators receive. And there is a very strict order of the questions they have to answer. And that somehow, of course, reflects the official form that applicants answer as well.
Yes, but
yes, we have the access. Yes, we have the access to all the documents submitted by the applicant. We have the mandatory part that we have to read and we have to answer. And then there is a complementary information that we have for maybe when we need some additional information. But when it is not mandatory, normally we only focus on the mandatory part. So
okay.
There is an access to all the the evaluation criteria are only mentioned on the European Commission websites in a very general way. And these questions are that I'm sharing with you here that are actually answered by the evaluators during this call. I'm sure that many of you are evaluators as well and knows what I am talking about. This is the information I have that's among
okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, this is not exactly the information that is enclosed in the European Commission websites. That is on, for example, on this slide, on the other slide.
Yes. But yes, but when you say mandatory information, is mandatory information relative to specifically relative to the call, or mandatory information general for an evaluator performance?
Well, when you are submitting your application, you have some official forms of a mandatory character to submit to be the application eligible for the evaluation process. So I'm referring to these mandatory documents.
Okay. And then finally, another two criteria that you have shown here is how realistically achievable is the proposal, and also how ambitious is the proposal. Yeah. And to me, these two criteria are controverted in the sense that the researchers and the consortia has to strike a balance between these two, because the more ambitious it is, the less achievable will be, and the more achievable will be, the less ambitious it is. So, how do we assess on what is the correct or the more more favorable balance between these two criteria?
To start, I would say that it's a very academic comment, because for something we are sending you the information about the European Commission consultation on each work program they release each few years, and then there is a space where European Commission actually asks and waits for your comments regarding the particular parts of the program. So I'm sure that this specific call has also its consultation. There was some consultation recently on the future work program. Normally these consultations are open for a few weeks, and then there are a lot of feedback to the European Commission, and actually I encourage you to participate there. You can mark the future work program with the European Commission in this way. And then
That's very valuable, Lidia.
Tell you what is the difference between the third and the fourth, yes, verifiable, achievable sub-criterion, because these are separate criterion. And normally there are three experts that after releasing the individual report, they enter into discussion and they comment according to their experience whether the project objectives may have this characteristic in questions. And for me, these are different sub-criteria. But of course, you may comment, you may contact European Commission whenever you have new ideas or how these innovation action program and forms can be modified or maybe seen from some other point of view.
Okay. Regarding the consultation process that the European Commission performs in order to prepare the calls, it is very valuable, that comment, because I don't know if we have a process to follow up on those consultation efforts, and if we have access to all the feedbacks that are reported to the European Commission on the calls, so that we have all the documents that are used to prepare the call.
The consultations are public. All the comments made are then printed on the website afterwards.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for me.
Are there any other questions? Well, I hope it was useful for you, and good luck with your proposals and with institutional progress. I think we are on the right track, and thank you for your attention, to you here and the online audience.